Moscow outlines conditions for unfreezing nuclear deal. The U.S. must reconsider its anti-Russia policies before New START can be resumed, Ambassador Anatoly Antonov warns. Russia's decision to suspend New START, the last remaining nuclear arms control treaty with the U.S., was the right response to Washington's anti-Russia policies and its violations of the deal, Moscow's ambassador to the U.S. Anatoly Antonov said on Monday. Commenting on Washington's criticism of the move, Antonov accused the U.S. of shifting the blame. He noted that Washington has launched and dragged its European allies into a large-scale hybrid war against Russia, while openly stating that its goal is to inflict a strategic defeat on our country. At the same time, as if nothing has happened, it insists on the inspection of our bases, which store strategic nuclear weapons. These are the same bases that have been attacked by Ukraine with the help of the Pentagon, the envoy stated. Antonov accused Washington of substantially violating the central provisions of New START. He said the U.S. had illegitimately withdrawn submarine-launched ballistic missile systems and heavy bombers from the deal's counting rules after declaring them incapable of carrying out nuclear missions following a procedure not agreed upon with Russia. Our inspectors have never been given the opportunity to verify the results of the conversion, Antonov explained. Against this backdrop, the ambassador described the decision to suspend participation in New START as the only right one under the circumstances, adding that Moscow still complies with the quantitative limitations imposed by the treaty. To create the conditions for a return to full-scale operation of New START, Washington must reconsider its hostile anti-Russian policy, he asserted. Last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that Moscow had suspended its membership of New START, saying the West had denied Moscow's requests to inspect Western nuclear facilities in accordance with the treaty under formal pretexts. The president also noted that NATO members were demanding access to Russia's strategic facilities, despite the fact that the deal was signed only by Moscow and Washington. New START was originally signed in 2010 by then-US President Barack Obama and his Russian counterpart, Dmitry Medvedev. It was aimed at having the number of strategic nuclear missile launchers deployed around the world. Under the treaty, both countries were supposed to allow the other side a limited number of inspections per year to verify compliance with the agreement. Unless extended, the treaty was set to expire in 2026. Water issues hit 2 Crimean communities. 2 malfunctions in one day have affected tens of thousands of people on the peninsula. 2 cities in Russia's Crimean Peninsula experienced water supply outages on Tuesday, with tens of thousands of residents denied service. Over 120,000 people in the western resort city of Yevpatoria were left without water after a malfunction at the central conduit in the nearby village of Pribrezhnoye, media reported, citing the local government. The city administration has introduced rationing and cancelled school classes, while repair crews deal with the pressure drop. A second incident affected the northern town of Krasnoperikosk, where some 25,000 people live, as well as at least 4 nearby villages, according to the utility responsible for the service. Some 10 meters of the damaged conduit will reportedly need to be replaced. Crimea rejoined Russia in 2014, after its residents rejected an armed coup in Kiev and voted in a referendum to break away from Ukraine and move under Russian sovereignty. The Ukrainian government considers the peninsula as its own territory and has pledged to retake it by military force. President Vladimir Zelensky declared last week that Kiev was making military steps in preparation for an attack on Crimea. Freshwater security has been a hot-button issue for the peninsula, since Ukraine decided to cut deliveries via a canal, which comes from the river Dnieper and accounted for some 85% of supplies at the time. The situation was alleviated amid the ongoing armed conflict, when Russian troops seized control of the key waterway and restored the flow. Airspace over St. Petersburg closed amid UFO reports. The city's Pulkovo airport stopped accepting civilian flights, authorities announced. The airspace near St. Petersburg, Russia's second-largest city, was briefly closed off on Tuesday morning due to the appearance of an unidentified flying object in the area, media have reported. The flights were halted for around an hour before resuming in full, the city's authorities announced on Telegram. The airspace above St. Petersburg is open. All temporary restrictions have been lifted, they said. Earlier on Tuesday, the city authorities announced that Pulkovo International Airport has stopped accepting civilian flights, but didn't reveal the reason for the move. The Pulkovo administration said that flights will be delayed at least until noon local time, 9 a.m. GMT. The airport and all its other services are operating as normal, it added. According to the Baza news outlet, jets were scrambled in the air as the so-called Kovier, carpet, plan was activated in St. Petersburg. The plan is initiated in the event of an illegal incursion by an aircraft or UFO into the country's airspace, according to the outlet. Local outlet Fontanka claimed that the Defense Ministry had told Pulkovo's administration that an unidentified flying object had been detected between 160 kilometers and 200 kilometers outside St. Petersburg. According to the procedure, the airport has to stop accepting flights in the event of such an incident. A source told RIA Novosti news agency that airspace around the city began reopening shortly after noon. Newspaper Kommersant reported that National Air Traffic Regulator Rosaviacha has told carriers that restrictions around St. Petersburg have been lifted. Data from website FlightRadar24 has also suggested that planes have started to return to the airspace around the city. Russia reports success against Ukrainian drone incursion. The aircraft had targeted civilian infrastructure, but the military drove them off course, the Defense Ministry said. Kiev forces launched drone attacks on Russia's southern Krasnodar region and Adygea Republic, but they were successfully repelled by the military, the Russian Defense Ministry has reported. Images of one of the aircraft were apparently shared by a regional head. The incursions happened in the early hours of Tuesday and targeted civilian infrastructure, according to a statement released by the ministry. Russian forces used electronic warfare to suppress the two drones, causing them to veer off course. One fell in a field, while the other failed to cause any damage to its target, the ministry said. Earlier in the day, Adygea head Murad Kumpalov shared images showing the wreckage of an unidentified aircraft, which he said was discovered near the village of Novoy, located to the north of the provincial capital Mako. The official said the crash resulted in no injuries, but caused minor damage to an outbuilding on a farm. Meanwhile, there was a fire overnight at an oil refinery in the city of Tvis in Krasnodar region. Municipal head Sergei Boyko said the blaze had broken out in a technical building, but did not spread to fuel tanks and was extinguished by firefighters within 30 minutes. Some Russian media claimed, citing anonymous sources, that the fire was caused by a failed attack involving unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. According to these reports, as many as 2 aircraft carrying explosives crashed some 100 meters from the fuel reservoirs, damaging a boiler room instead. In Belgorod region, which borders Ukraine, 3 drone wreckages were discovered in the provincial capital on Monday evening. One of the UAVs crashed through the window of an apartment building, prompting evacuation. Some media claimed the drones were Ukrainian and carried British-made plastic explosives, based on images of the debris. Sanctions against Russia dubbed poison for EU. The bloc's new restrictions only increase its dependence on direct competitors, according to Moscow. EU sanctions against Russia are missing the mark and instead chipping away at the bloc's economic independence, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said on Tuesday. She slammed the 10th package of EU sanctions, which was unveiled on Saturday to mark the one-year anniversary of Moscow's military campaign against Ukraine. The measures targeted Russia's banking sector and sought to curb its access to dual-use and advanced technologies. Each consecutive sanctions package clearly demonstrates one thing: anti-Russia restrictions are instruments that did not work. Zakharova said she agreed with Josep Borrell, the EU's top diplomat, who earlier this month described the restrictions as slow-acting but certain poison. The only thing is that they, first of all, kill the economic sovereignty of the European Union. The EU can slap itself with any number of restrictions regarding trade with Russia. This will only increase its dependence on its direct competitors, she explained. Zakharova also blasted the bloc's crackdown on Russian media, noting that Brussels was deliberately destroying the foundations of democratic society, undermining the principles and values the EU was built on in the first place. The spokeswoman also offered a reminder that the EU, the US and their satellites found themselves alone in imposing sanctions on Russia. The rest of the world did not join any of the packages, rejecting restrictions as illegal, hurting the global economy and undermining food and energy security, she said. Adding that the EU's threats to punish those who refuse to comply with the sanctions would only strengthen global opposition to what essentially is the neo-colonial dictatorial policy of the West. Since the start of the Ukraine crisis, the EU has imposed restrictions on a total of 1,473 individuals and 205 entities that the bloc said undermined Ukraine's territorial integrity. Russian President Vladimir Putin has described this campaign as a full-blown sanctions war, adding that it had failed to bring about the collapse of the nation's economy. China and Russia bolster military ties with Far East exercises. Russian President Vladimir Putin attended large-scale military exercises involving Chinese forces and several other Russian-friendly countries on Wednesday. The Vostok 2022 drills being held in Russia's Far East region of Primorsky involve more than 50,000 soldiers, 140 aircraft, and 60 ships. During a speech at the plenary session of the 2022 Eastern Economic Forum, Putin said no matter how much someone would like to isolate Russia, it is impossible to do this. The Russian president said the COVID-19 pandemic has been replaced by other global challenges threatening the whole world, including sanctions fever in the West, and welcomed the growing role of the Asia-Pacific region in global affairs. The role of the countries of the Asia-Pacific region has significantly increased, Putin said at the forum. According to a Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson, China's participation in Vostok 2022 aims to strengthen cooperation between the militaries of the participating countries, enhance the level of strategic cooperation among all participating parties, and enhance the ability to jointly respond to various security threats. Russia said Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping will meet next week during a regional summit in Uzbekistan. The last time the two leaders met was in February, only weeks before the Kremlin sent troops into Ukraine. Russia also announced on Tuesday that China will be switching from US dollars to yuan and rubles to pay for deliveries of Russian natural gas. Putin said confidence has been lost in foreign currencies such as the US dollar, the euro, and the British pound, and Russia is distancing itself from such unreliable, compromised currencies. However, most dollar indexes have shown an increase in the strength of the currency since Russian troops attacked Ukraine. HXR to lift mask mandate from March 1. China's Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, HXR, announced that its residents are no longer required to wear face masks in public places starting from Wednesday, HXR Chief Executive John Lee said on Tuesday. Lee told a press briefing before an executive council meeting that the move was based on several considerations, including data showing that the epidemic situation in Hong Kong was under control. Hong Kong had built a comprehensive anti-epidemic barrier and there was no major outbreak in hospitals and schools. From Wednesday, people do not have to wear masks outdoors or indoors, or on public transport, but high-risk places, such as hospitals and care homes, can still require visitors to wear a mask, Lee said. Diverse backgrounds of CPPCC members reflect consultative democracy. Chen Chen has been a neurologist for nearly 2 decades in Taiyuan, the capital of China's northern Shaanxi province. He's been posting videos sharing his medical and health knowledge on social media since 2020, gaining millions of followers. In January, he was selected as a new member of the 13th Shaanxi Provincial Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, and started attending meetings. During the sessions, we shared our opinions on work reports by the provincial government and CPPCC, said Chen, now working as chief physician in the neurology department of Shaanxi Hospital of Cardiac and Cerebrovascular Diseases. We also raised proposals which were discussed in the meetings. Then we took part in voting to elect new leaders of the Shaanxi CPPCC. In his proposal, Chen calls for more doctors to use social media to help increase the public's awareness of medical and health issues. He is among more than 500 new members, from a range of backgrounds, that have been selected for the Shaanxi branch of the Consultative Conference this year. The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference is a top political advisory body in China. The process of becoming a CPPCC member is different from becoming a deputy to the National People's Congress, NPC. While NPC deputies are elected, CPPCC members are chosen through consultation and on recommendation. Chen was recommended for membership of the Shaanxi branch of the CPPCC by the Shaanxi Provincial Youth Federation, of which he's been a member for 10 years. The community organization says it was due to his remarkable expertise and achievements in the medical profession, as well as his innovative approach to using social media for public benefit. So how exactly are members of the Consultative Conference chosen? Professor Wei Hulin explains. He is a two-time member of the Shaanxi branch and dean of the School of Business Administration at Shaanxi University of Finance and Economics. Different parties, groups, and sectors consult and recommend candidates to the Organization Department and United Front Work Department of the Provincial Party Committee, he said. The two offices will then consult with related sides and make a balance to confirm a list of names to submit to the Shaanxi CPPCC Standing Committee for consultation and a vote. The final names will be announced to the public. Wei has pointed out the members' diverse backgrounds reflect democracy in action. Only those who are representative of, and recognized by, their party, group or social sector can be recommended. And they come from all walks of life. It's a requirement of the CPPCC because different voices are needed to consult and make decisions for the people. This is a prominent feature of China's democracy, he said. Wei also said the whole process people's democracy is reflected in the annual 2 sessions, when the CPPCC members raise a lot of proposals. During my 2 terms a provincial CPPCC member, I raised over 50 proposals about education, economy, and environment protection. All received active responses from the government and had good outcomes, he said. Wei believes the process by which proposals are made within the consultative conference, together with the government's response and decision-making, reflect what's known in China as whole process people's democracy. World's largest double-ended RORO passenger ship delivered in Guangzhou. The world's largest double-ended roll-on/roll-off, RORO, passenger ship, 230.5 meters long and 30.8 meters wide, with a service speed of up to 20.8 knots, was delivered to its new owner in Guangzhou, South China's Guangdong province, on Tuesday. Upon delivery to the ship owner, English shipping company P&O Ferries, the ship will operate in the English Channel, mainly between the port of Dover in southeastern UK and the port of Calais in northern France. The hybrid ship, which has a capacity of 1,500 passengers and over 700 vehicles of different types, can switch its propulsion mode between fuel and battery as needed with one button, minimizing air pollution. The ship is equipped with 1,160 large-capacity batteries assigned in 4 battery rooms. The total capacity can reach 8.8 megawatt-hours, MWh, which is equivalent to the total capacity of 150 electric cars, China Media Group, CMG, reported. The batteries have 2 charging modes. One is to use the power supply on the dock when it docks for passenger and cargo loading, and the other is to charge the electricity generator on the ship. The ship can recycle the excess electric energy while sailing and store them in large-capacity batteries. Another highlight of the RORO ship is that the structure of its bow and stern is completely symmetrical and can realize 2-way navigation. Both the bow and stern have a wheelhouse with the same operation equipment. The crew can pilot the ship from the 2 wheelhouses, respectively. Zhou Sui, Deputy General Manager of Guangzhou Shipyard International Company Ltd. under the China State Shipbuilding Corporation Limited, said the design enables the ship to turn 360 degrees in situ, effectively shortening the time the ship enters and leaves the port and improving the operation efficiency. Shenzhou 14 astronauts share thrilling experience of spacewalks. The astronauts of China's Shenzhou 14 manned space mission recalled the thrilling experience of spacewalks in September last year. On September 1 and 2, 2022, Chinese astronauts, or takonauts, Chen Dong and Lu Yang completed their first extravehicular activities, EVAs, with the support of takonaut Cai Suhi inside China Space Station's lab module Wenshan. The last task of the first spacewalk was to perform an autonomous emergency return to the Wenshan lab module. The designated path was 30 meters long and takonauts needed to crawl along the handrails on the bulkhead. We relied entirely on our hands. We happened to be in the shadow area when crawling the longest path. I dared to take a glance down at halfway. It was all black, bottomless darkness. I don't think abyss is enough to describe the feeling, that you can't see anything or reference. Such a huge psychological blow sent my nerves right through the roof. So I quickly averted my gaze and held the handrail even tighter, Lu said. After about 6 hours, the crew members of the Shenzhou 14 successfully completed all the scheduled tasks for the first extravehicular activity. Lu Yang and Chen Dong took a selfie before returning to the cabin. They said it was a pretty nice shot. The sun was rising between us, so red and radiant. At that time, if you looked down, you could see the vast territory of our Mother Earth, so blue and beautiful. It was not until that time that I was in the mood and had time to fix my eyes greedily on the spectacular scenery outside the space station. I was really happy, Lu said. Only 17 days after the first spacewalk, on September 17, 2022, the takonauts conducted their second EVAs when they installed a handle and had an extravehicular rescue drill. Before our second spacewalk, the ground control called, saying that the mission might be okay for the rescuer but requires some guts for the rescued. Because I needed to completely let go and let someone else to pull me away. Indeed, when I loosened my grip, I felt I might float away, far away from the space station. It was just the conditioned reflex that made me want to grab something instinctively when I let go. At the time, I thought we must trust our teammates. Although I couldn't grab, I could still look around, help him confirm and talk to each other. When he pulled me during spacewalk, I could remind him of the extravehicular loads and prevent him from bumping into something, CAI said. The 3 takonauts are the first crew to enter the space station's 2 lab modules, and they set a record of making 3 spacewalks on a single flight mission. They also helped realize the world's fastest automated rendezvous and docking of the cargo craft Tianzhou 5 with the space station in about 2 hours. The trio conducted an in-orbit rotation with the Shenzhou 15 crew, a historic gathering that added the workforce at the in-orbit space station to 6 for the first time. Last unit of world's second largest hydropower station passes acceptance. The last unit of China's mega power station, Beihetan Hydropower Station, passed acceptance on Monday. At this point, all 16 units of the station have passed acceptance. Located on the Jinsha River, the upper section of the Yangtze River in southwest China, Beihetan has a total installed capacity of 16 gigawatts. It's the world's second largest hydropower station in terms of total installed capacity, second only to the Three Gorges Dam project in the central Chinese province of Hubei. Having entered full operation on December 20, 2022, the station can generate 62,400 gigawatt-hours of electricity a year, enough to meet the electricity consumption needs of approximately 75 million people. As of February 26, Beihetan generated 9,000 gigawatt-hours of electricity within 2023, and 64,500 gigawatt-hours in total. China to install new optical telescope on Pamirs. China will install a new optical telescope on the Pamirs, which will be the third largest in the country, according to Xinjiang Astronomical Observatory under the Chinese Academy of Sciences. The telescope will be placed at the Mistak Observatory in southern Xinjiang's Akadao County. The observatory is located at an altitude of 4,520 meters. Its best seeing, which means the sharpness of a telescopic image, can reach 0.4 seconds of arc. In winter, the moisture content in the atmosphere at the site is often less than 2 millimeters, and the towering Mount Kongur blocks the light interference from cities, said Wang Na, director of Xinjiang Astronomical Observatory. The excellent optical observation conditions at Mistak are quite rare in the country and can be compared with world-class optical observatories, said Wang. The 1.9-meter optical telescope is currently the third largest universal optical telescope in China and is planned to be put into operation in June 2024. China's Juncotech contributes to UN Sustainable Development Goals. The Chinese Junco technology has the potential to contribute to the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, said a UN official in a recent workshop. The Junco technology, which in Chinese means breeding fungi with herbaceous plants, has benefited 106 countries and regions by addressing poverty, soil erosion, and desertification, according to the official website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China. The technology has been promoted in 15 languages, with over 10,000 people trained both at home and abroad. 13 Asian, African, and Pacific countries have established training and demonstration centers of the Junco technology, said the ministry. Amzin Sibanda from the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UNDISA, said that Junco technology is an effective tool and a simple technology that can be used by everyone, even somebody with limited knowledge of education. Sibanda spoke at the just concluded African Regional Workshop on applications of Junco technology and its contribution to the achievement of sustainable agriculture and the Sustainable Development Goals in Africa in the Rwandan capital of Kigali. The technology has a big potential to contribute to the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals, said Sibanda, who currently serves as the chief of the National Strategies and Capacity Building Branch in the Division for Sustainable Development Goals of UNDISA. Adding that the reason why UNDISA is promoting the technology is because of the 2030 agenda of SDGs. We believe that the Junco technology is one of the technological solutions that can be transferred through South-South cooperation to help those countries that want to address the issues of food insecurity, environment challenges and poverty alleviation, he said. He explained that growing mushrooms using Junco technology will address food insecurity, generate household income and create employment opportunities for women and young people, and called on African countries and beyond to adopt and implement the technology in the quest for promoting economic development. We have seen here in Rwanda how young people have embraced Junco technology. These young people are very empowered and have big dreams. We wish to see more people across Africa get to know Junco technology and its benefits, Sibanda said, and noted that Junco technology can protect the environment and address climate change challenges through soil erosion control as well as using Junco grass to feed livestock. The knowledge of Junco technology in producing mushrooms and the use of Junco grass as a forage for livestock are very important in promoting economic development, said Asimwe L. Rui Gutsa, Director for Grazing Land and Animal Feed Resources in the Tanzanian Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries. Junco technology will help us address the challenge of conflict between crop producers and livestock herders in Tanzania because we are going to increase forage production for livestock using the technology, Rui Gutsa said, and explained that the conflict is a result of the livestock harming farmers' crop fields due to lack of sufficient fodder. We have seen here in Rwanda mushroom products that have been produced using Junco technology. We have gained that knowledge and we are going to practice it in our country, said Rui Gutsa.